Hi, this is Tiffanie Travels, where we help women and families build wealth, travel, and live richer. So today we have a special guest from South Africa. I'm going to bring her on here. Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm so excited to be on this platform today.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So you can start by introducing yourself and your channel and telling us about what kind of content we can find on your channel.
Hi, my name is Dolvana and I'm based in South Africa. I am actually a green economy specialist. That's my day job. And then I also create content, family related content, and albinism related content because I have a 3-year-old with albinism. So my channel is about just navigating raising her as a child with albinism, but also my other kids who are different in their own way. I have my son who was born at 27 weeks. So I also create a bit of content on raising a very premature baby. And then I have a 6-year-old who's like super, super curious. So I kind of capture all of that for social media. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, so you are in South Africa. So which
Yes.
part of South Africa are you?
I'm in Cape Town.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Cape Town, the prettier part of South Africa.
Yeah,
Although the other city people would probably bite my head off when they hear that. But yes, the nicer part of South Africa is where I am.
I went to Cape Town a few years ago and it's beautiful. Just
It's absolutely
the what is it,
amazing.
Table
Yeah,
Mountain? It's
yeah,
beautiful with the
yeah.
clouds and the ocean. It is really pretty.
Yeah, it really is. And I know that the other provinces are a bit jealous when we say that the Western Cape, which is where Cape Town is the best province in South Africa. But we joke about it, but it really is. It's something else. I mean, you've been here, you know. It looks like a first world country in Africa, really. Well,
Yeah.
city, but yeah.
Yeah, it does. So what are some of the differences between Johannesburg and Cape Town? Because I hear a lot of people moving to Johannesburg, and I know a lot of people like on YouTube live in Johannesburg, South
Mhm.
Africa. But what would be some of the differences? Is it like more opportunities, jobs there, or between
Yeah.
that and
So
Cape Town?
So Cape Town is more scenic, so it's laid back, very touristy. So you get a lot of tourists visiting because there's a lot of tourist attractions. Like you have Table Mountain, you have the two oceans that where the two oceans meet. You have Robben Island, which is where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned, and then you have popular attractions like the waterfront and so forth. So it's very touristic, and it has a strong outdoor culture. So it's very mountainous, but also you have really lovely beaches. You have a whole creative scene, and a lot of tech startups are based in Cape Town. Um, Compared to Johannesburg, which is more of your economic hub, it's more fast-paced, more business-driven. Yeah, it's a faster life. It's more urban, and economically, it's the hub. So a lot of headquarters are in Johannesburg. They also tend to offer better pay, so better professional life. So it's kind of like if you really want to move up the ranks, you go to Joburg. But we've actually seen quite a lot of people actually moving to the Cape Town as well, or some of them semi-grating because I don't know if semi-grating is like a word you guys use at all.
Uh-huh.
Is it?
I
Not
haven't really
really.
heard it.
Yeah. So I mean, we use the word semi-grading is like when people that are based in Joburg, they work in Joburg, but they kind of live in Cape Town, which is a weird thing because it means you're like always on a flight to Cape Town.
Yeah.
But I know of people that have left their families in Cape Town, but they kind of work in Johannesburg, and in the weekends they'll take a flight, and it's like a 45 minutes flight to Cape Town to kind of live the weekend life and then travel back. So a lot of people do that because people want the best of both, right? They want
Mm.
the Joburg salaries, which is really good compared to Cape Town, but then they want the Cape Town lifestyle. So people do that quite a lot. Um, but yeah, the differences is that Cape Town is more nature and leisure, and Joburg is more like business and high paced, high nightlife scene, vibrant, business oriented kind of place.
Okay. And so I've like heard there are so many languages in South Africa that
Yeah.
so how many languages do you speak?
So I'm originally from Angola, but I've been in Cape Town for over 10 years. I think it's probably been like 17 years now or something,
Ah,
more closer to 20.
mhm.
I don't speak any of the local languages. I've tried, I really have, because they always think I'm from South Africa. They look at me and they start speaking the local language, and I always have to, I understand the basics, but I don't really speak. So, but South Africa has 11 official languages, English and Afrikaans and Xhosa being the main ones.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of the others. So literally the national anthem has different languages,
Oh, wow.
and people speak different languages in South Africa. But I've only managed to get the basics of Xhosa, which is how to greet, how to say basic stuff. But I don't speak any of it. I wish I could.
Okay. And then what language like are the schools taught in?
Yeah, so the schools are taught in English, Afrikaans, and Xhosa or isiXhosa. Afrikaans is more of I don't know if you've heard of Afrikaans, but
Yeah.
it originated from Dutch because they used to have a lot of Dutch immigrants in the past,
Uh-huh.
migrants in the past. So parts of South Africa were colonized by the Dutch. So the Afrikaans originated from the Dutch, so much so that there's similarities between Dutch and Afrikaans. If you're an Afrikaans speaker, you can understand certain words from Dutch words. Although I must say, I was in the Netherlands 2 years ago, and I thought I would understand what they're saying because I speak Afrikaans. Oh yeah, that's the one language, official language that I use. I speak Afrikaans, and I thought I would understand what they're saying. I could understand it in writing, but the pronunciations were a bit different. But Afrikaans is one of the official languages, and in school, not in all of them, but in school, you'd see it's normal that they teach English, Afrikaans, and then Xhosa as a local language or one of the local languages. But Xhosa is the main one because it's spoken in the Eastern Cape and the Western Cape provinces. So it's compulsory that they learn that. So, for example, my daughter is at a school. It's a public school, but it's a very good public school, and she has to learn English. They teach in English, and she has to do Afrikaans and Xhosa as second and third languages.
Okay, okay. So it's like another class. Like that's their
Yeah,
foreign language.
but it's a compulsory class. They have to
Okay.
take it. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Hmm.
That is
Very
cool.
interesting. It's kind of cool because kids grow up already speaking 2 to 3 languages, which isn't a bad thing. And then because Xhosa is one of the main ones, they get to learn how to speak the local language. I was concerned when she went to primary school because I was saying, um, you know, isn't it too much for them? But it really isn't. The kids pick up very, very quickly. But it's kind of good because you actually want them to be able to communicate with the locals, right?
Yeah.
And you want them to learn the local language as well. And for some, that's their mother tongue. So it's good that they're being taught that at school.
And they're learning them at the same time, the 3 languages?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the three
Okay.
at the same time. So they're taught in English, but they have an Afrikaans class in the week, and then they also have actually more than once in the week, and then they also have a isiXhosa class in the week.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah.
So how would you describe the culture of South Africa?
Hmm. The history of South Africa. There was racial segregation. What they call the apartheid time. Um, so kind of the vibe of South Africa is there's a lot of different languages, which is accommodated in the fact that there are 11 official languages. And then you have kind of systemic racism, which kind of still lives on, although we're past the apartheid times, right? And so you see a lot of subtle segregation, and in some cases it's even like very obvious.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I wouldn't say that a lot nothing has changed since the apartheid times. A lot has changed. South Africa is still a leader in Africa. It's a country that balances past and kind of present and prosperous future. So, but you do find that some people still have a bit of resentment towards white people in South Africa because of the times. And there's also something called the Black Economic Empowerment. I don't know if I can call it a policy,
Uh-huh.
or but it basically favors Black people for jobs and stuff like that, to kind of correct the disparities of the past. But what that causes is that it also makes white people resent Black people, because now they feel they're the ones being left behind. So there's a lot of that. Um, but you hear a lot about it when you're talking about the economy, or when you're talking about crime, or when you're talking about the country. But you don't, on a day to day, and especially for someone like me who's not originally from South Africa, I don't completely feel that. You know,
Okay.
I hear that black people are frustrated by the fact that they think they're not catching up fast enough, or that there's still some systemic racism and discrimination. Um, but in places like Cape Town, for example, where you have a political entity that's more white, and you kind of have the ANC, which is black led in Johannesburg, in the Gauteng province, you really feel the difference. Yeah, it's there's still deep inequalities, but I must say that things have also moved on the positive side. And if you look at kind of the rest of the world, you'll see that countries that have suffered those like racism in the past, it's kind of similar. I'm sure it's the same in the US. I mean, I follow a lot of uh, Black Lives Matter movements and other movements where people are actually complaining about systemic racism, and it's the same here. But that doesn't mean that the US hasn't moved as a nation, right?
Right.
They've kind of moved, but there's still problems, teething problems along the way. So I would say it's the same here. Like, it's the economy and the country is moving forward, becoming a bit more modern, vibrant, but there are still issues as they are everywhere else.
Yeah, when I was there in Cape Town, I went to a restaurant and the hostess was African. She was black, African. And it was a group of us. We were like maybe four of us. And we asked, for a table. And she says, there's no more tables. And we're like, what about that table right there? Because it was clearly space in the restaurant.
Mm.
And then she goes, oh, you want this table? And she's like, yeah, that you can sit here. And we thought it was so weird that she was telling us that there was no space. And we were
Yeah,
thinking maybe she was trying to see our accent to see if we can afford to eat there. It was,
yeah, yeah.
is that a common thing?
No, I wouldn't say it's a common thing. So it's not like you come to South Africa and you can definitely expect that. It's
Uh-huh.
relative. It's about where you go and which place you go to. And for you guys, maybe as Americans in South Africa, again, people will treat you a certain way according to where you're from or the color of your skin. But it's not. I wouldn't stereotype it and say that it happens absolutely everywhere. Um, yeah, definitely not that it's common everywhere. It was probably just a unique experience at that moment. Did you feel that throughout your trip though, or was it just that
No, it was
particular
just that
moment?
place. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the places as well. Some places are a bit high end, so they'll maybe not want certain type of people there, or some are more for the locals. It just depends on the place. I haven't felt that segregation. living here, but then again, I do live here. So I don't know, as a person coming in, how that would be.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what is like typical South African food?
Oh, South Africans eat a lot of meat, hey? Like, so there's something called the braai, which is like a barbecue. It's a very
Uh-huh.
common thing here. So South Africans braai a lot. So they eat a lot of barbecued meat. And they have this dish called the pap and chakalaka dish, right? So pap is like a staple maize porridge. So they'll cook it and make a porridge.
Uh-huh.
And then it's served with like a spicy vegetable relish, which they call the chakalaka.
Okay.
And they would pair that with meat or a stew. So that is quite common. And on the sweet side, there's something called Cook Sisters, which I really like. It's very sweet though, but it's like a deep fried pastry soaked in syrup. And then it's like crunchy on the inside, on the outside, but like
Uh-huh.
sweet and soft on the inside. Um, and they'll make it like it's round. Well, depending on where you go, you can either get it round, or some of them would do like a pastry braid. uh, but it's very crunchy on the outside, but inside it's like moist, sweet. It's very sweet, I must say, because they dip it in syrup. But it's one of those things that wherever I go and I see it, I'm like, I have to have one. And then they have something called a fat cook, which if you translate it, it's literally fat cake.
Okay.
It's an Afrikaans term. It's fat cook. It's like a fat cake because it's very oily.
Uh-huh.
It's a deep fried dough bun, really. It's a deep fried bun. And it's either served, so it's round and it's quite big, so you can kind of cut it in half and fill it with something sweet or savory, depending on you, but mostly savory. I've seen like you could take minced meat and put it inside, and you have it. It's like a bread, but it's kind of like a bun. It has that consistency of a donut.
Uh-huh.
um, and you can also eat it with jam or cheese if you'd like. But that's also one of like on the pastry side that's quite common here. But meat, like barbecue meat is what South Africa. They actually have a day called Braai Day, and it's a literal public holiday. Nobody works,
Oh wow.
and everybody just goes and braais. Yeah, and barbecues.
That is
Yeah,
cool. Okay, so lots of meats. All right.
lots of
And
meat.
then
Yeah.
is it common to have like in-home help in South Africa? Like,
Very common.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, remember I told you my sister lives in the US,
Yeah.
and she would always complain about she doesn't have anybody to help her with the kids, with this and that. And to me, it's just like, that is so weird. And I would always tell her, like, why don't you hire somebody? And she'll
Yeah.
be like, it's really expensive to hire a nanny or a house help in the US.
It is.
which
Yeah.
to me is weird, because to us it's like, it's common. You either have a nanny and a house help, or you have one person doing both, and you kind of pay them accordingly. But I must say, it's a bittersweet situation, because they're not paid, um they're not really paid well.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say they get a full salary,
Uh-huh.
or that they can get a full salary to get by, but they get something. And that for me is the part that is a bit kind of bittersweet, because you're giving somebody a job, but in giving them a little bit of money, but not enough to kind of make a living.
Yeah.
um, yeah, but for them, I think it's being stuck between a sword and a hard place. Like, I need a job, you
Uh-huh.
know, although I'm not getting paid enough to make a proper living, I'm getting paid something. It's still
Yeah.
better than not having an income, you know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So there isn't like, it's not like in the US, where a nanny is like you probably went to school to be a nanny, or an au pair, or you probably went to school to learn to be a domestic worker. But also your minimum wage there is like significant, to the point where somebody working as a maid or working as a nanny earns enough to make a living. That's like their profession.
It could
Here
be.
it could be a profession, right? But
Yeah.
here it's not really a profession. It's more of a situation like, somebody who doesn't have an option. and couldn't possibly go to school. So they probably didn't study and they didn't have an option. And so they went and they became somebody's house help or somebody's nanny. Um, so that's, yeah. So most of the situations it's like that. And a lot of people that are not from South Africa, so immigrants, a lot of immigrants from Zimbabwe, Malawi, like neighboring African countries,
Yeah.
when they come here seeking asylum, they're the ones that kind of end up doing a lot of that type of jobs
Okay.
because they can't integrate into the professional world, right? They don't have the necessary documentation to be able to go and work, and a lot of them are fleeing a situation from their country. So some of them probably didn't study, but they need to make a living.
Right.
So you'll see that a lot of them are actually immigrants. Not to say that South Africa, you don't find South Africans that do that, you do, but majority of them are immigrants, immigrants that came here because they came looking for better living. Yeah, but the salary isn't great. It's not, I, it's, you don't have to pay them that much, although you do find people that still want to kind of pay them enough to make a living,
Uh-huh.
but you're not obliged. It's like you don't need to pay them like an exorbitant amount, which is kind of sad, really.
Do they typically live in the home or they come like every day, Monday
It
to Friday?
depends on you. It depends on the person. So you either need someone to come and work for you during the day and leave, or you actually want somebody to live in with you. It's quite common amongst parents with younger kids that they have a live in.
Okay.
And I mean, a middle class family can afford a live-in maid. That's
Okay.
how little they get paid.
Okay.
Um, but it just depends on your situation. I've never had a live-in maid because I just never needed one. And for me, it's a bit of an awkward situation,
Yeah.
I don't want to have someone that I can't pay enough to actually work for me. Because these are your kids. You want to make sure the person taking care of your kids is well compensated so they don't have any motivation to not work like they should be working, right?
Right.
Um, but yeah, so we would have a person, a lady coming in to help us 3 times in the week because that's what we could afford at the time. So that's also common. You don't need them to be here like full time, but it also just depends on your situation. Maybe you do need a live in, or you need somebody working through the week, or but like I said, it's mostly foreign people. So the ones we've had, it's all been non-South Africans.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So you wake up and it's a Tuesday morning. What does your day typically look like?
Ooh. Yeah, the day starts quite early here as well because school starts at 7:30.
Okay.
So the kids have to be at school by 7:30. And then and because kids kind of go, I mean, I'm sure it's the same in the US, kids kind of go to school close to home. A typical
Yeah.
day for us is we wake up, we get the kids ready for school, get them to school, and then we get ready to go to work.
Okay.
And depending on the day, if it's a day where, or if we get delayed and I leave the house late and there's traffic, then I'll rather take the train. So it's safe to take the train. They're really good train system here. They actually have quite a good public transport system, I must say. So to the point where if I don't want to take my car, I can take the train to work, and it's
Okay.
faster. So on a normal day, if I'm just kind of falling behind and I need to get to work, but it's no, it's late in the morning, I'll take the train and then I'll take the train back. I get to work and I'm at work the whole day. We have the normal culture of being at work. 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock is lunchtime, so you leave for lunch. And then around about, if you're the type, so schools here end at around 1 p.m.
Oh.
um, 12 p.m., which I understood from my sister because we were having this conversation a while back where I was asking her, do they have aftercare facilities at schools in the US? And she was like, you don't really need it because your kids come out of school, I think, at 3, or at
Three.
least
Yeah.
where she lives. So at 3, it's fine, right? I can come out of work and get my kids at 3. But
Okay.
here it's like 12:45, and some days 1 o'clock they're out of school. Now you're like at work that time, so you have a lot of parents leaving through during lunchtime to go pick up their kids and drop them off at home and then go back to work.
Okay.
But for
Okay.
us, because I work very far from home, not
Uh-huh.
very far, but I work like 20 to 25 minutes away from home. There's no way I'm leaving at lunch to come and pick up my daughter and then go back, my kids, and then go back again. So I pay for aftercare services. So I'll pay for them to stay at school until 5 o'clock. 5:30 latest, you have to pick them up. And that works for us because then we're not rushing back to come and get them. So around 4:30, we're leaving work to get home, and then we're picking the kids up, and then we're home around 5:30. Latest 6 p.m. we're home, and then it's dinner time, and then we do it, and then bedtime, and then we do it all over again the next day.
It
So yeah,
is okay.
that's a typical day. In Cape Town, there isn't too much traffic, so it's not too bad. You can have a really nice balanced life where you go to work, come back home, and you're still on time to have dinner with your kids, help them with homework and stuff like that. It's not too bad. But then again, it also depends on what time of the day you leave in your house. Early morning around 7, it's terrible because everybody's trying to get all their kids to school.
Okay.
And then again, around 12 to 1, for the parents that don't have aftercare, they're picking up their kids. Also a terrible time to be in the streets. It's like lots of traffic. And then again at 5 o'clock. So if you're a parent that pays for aftercare, you're typically in the road around 4:35 to get
Uh-huh.
home to pick your kids up. And that time you also want to avoid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's early. I didn't know that they get out that early of
It's
school.
very early. Yeah. So aftercare is a thing here because of that. Because for working parents, there's just no way you're leaving your work at 12:30, 12:45 to pick your child up. And then where you leaving them, right? Because unless you have somebody to take care of them at home, they're probably safer off staying at school. So at school, they normally have aftercare facilities within the school, so they come and collect them from the classes, and then yeah, they do more activities with them through the day, or if they have extramurals like sports, they'll do it at school. So they basically spend the whole day at school, like they're
Okay.
going to work, and they leave at around 5 o'clock. They really come home exhausted. Hey, like for I know, like my kids, they come home and they just want to sleep. They want to eat and go to bed, which isn't a bad thing because then they don't get into stuff they're not supposed to get to. So they don't get a lot of screen time because there isn't that time to actually be sitting in front of the screen after school.
Yeah.
At 5, by the time they get home, which is 5:30, it's really just bath, and dinner, or sometimes they'll first have dinner and then bath. And then they're too tired to do anything else. We'll do quick homework for because my daughter is in grade 1, so they don't get a lot of homework. Their homework is quick. It's like half an hour homework, and then they just want to go to bed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So tell us about your daughter, because you have a daughter with albinism. I have a daughter with
Yes.
albinism. And so
Yes.
tell
She's
us
very
about,
pretty. I follow her.
thank you. Yes, yours as well. They kind of look alike. I'm
Thank
always like,
you.
oh.
I know. Well, she looks like me, and the others look like that. I say that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But everybody says, "Oh, they all look like their dad." I want to claim at least one of them. Okay.
Yeah.
So raising a child with albinism in South Africa, or in Africa, actually, it's a bit weird. I must say, there is a lot of people with albinism in South Africa, but because South Africa, you get predominantly Black African people, right?
Yes.
So when you see a person with albinism, they stand out like a sore thumb. So, but yeah, they're not very well taken care of, and they are still like people misleading information about people with albinism out there, and misconceptions about people with albinism. So in South Africa, you do still find people that they know what it is, but they don't really know how it happens or why it happens, or what it's like to have a child with albinism. So you'll find that people would make really ignorant comments, but that's because I think they get uncomfortable, right? When I go, because I have a 6-year-old who doesn't have albinism, and then I have a 3-year-old with albinism, and then my son doesn't have albinism. And when we're out together, there's always questions, there's comments like, "Is she adopted?" Um, and or people will be like, "Do they share the same dad?" But sometimes I feel like it just comes out of awkwardness because people
Yeah.
don't know how to act. And then you'll find some people that are polite and they'll ask me, which I don't really mind. If somebody asks me, "Oh, what is it like taking care of a child with albinism?" And I'll gladly explain. But for the most part, it's really ignorant comments. And right now she's still young, so she doesn't understand some of the questions. And I think the older she gets, I get a bit more concerned about how, because they ask those things in front of her. It's not
Yeah.
like, oh, they're gonna wait for her to. They ask in front of her. So my 6-year-old has started picking up these questions, and I mean, we've had extensive discussions with him about what albinism is. And Ziva, our 6-year-old, she started to understand like what it is. So sometimes when people ask questions in public, she'll try and answer, which is kind of
Okay.
cool, having a 6-year-old telling, schooling an adult on what albinism is. Um, but Zaya is the one with albinism. When she becomes when she gets to 6 years old, I worry how she will react to such questions, right? Is she gonna
Right.
be like, "Don't be asking me these things," or is she gonna be open to respond? I hope she's open to responding, and we want to raise her in a way that if somebody asks, she answers because she just understands that people don't know.
Right.
But for now, as a parent, I worry about her going to school. She goes to a normal school right now. There isn't, it's not like there are special schools. I've heard of one that somebody told me about where they have kids with albinism, and it's focused on just taking care of them there. But for now, she goes to a normal school. But I have to kind of explain to the school before so she recently moved to from one school to the next, and I had to explain to them like how to take care of her, because it's not like they just know how to take care of them. So I have to tell them to always put her sunscreen on, put her hat on, make sure that even her scalp has sunscreen because the whole body is sensitive. I have to make sure that, because she wears glasses, I have to tell them that she must be wearing it all the time and that they need to keep it clean. So it was a bit of a thing finding a school that was willing to accommodate her. Um, and luckily, at the daycare level, a lot of them already put things like sunscreen and hats on the kids. So I'm not asking for anything extra
Yeah.
by telling you to put sunscreen on my child, which is great. Of course, it's not everywhere that does that, but the ones in the area where we live, it's a common thing that they put sunscreen on the kids and they put hats on the kids, which already is like a really good thing for me because they don't have to feel like I'm giving them extra work by
Right.
asking. So yeah, but in the weekends when we go out, you find, yeah, people make comments. I always have to explain. Just last week we went out and the lady was asking me what is albinism. She literally didn't know, and then she asked me, "Can you write it down for me? I wanna read up on it." And in the same second, she was like, "Actually, no, never mind. I actually don't want to know." Literally, I kid you not, she
Oh
said that to me. I
no.
was like, "Okay, good for you." And she just carried on walking. So you find people that are awkward about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know, but in some parts of Africa, kids with albinism are in danger because there's a belief that their body parts can cure illnesses like AIDS and stuff. So there's also a lot of witchcraft attached to kids with albinism because apparently there's people that do like this witchcraft and stuff believe that if you can get a child with albinism or a limb from a child with albinism, it brings good luck, like weird
Yeah.
beliefs that they have. So in countries like Tanzania, they persecute it. So it makes me worry because we are in Africa, although we're in South Africa, we are in Africa, and
Yeah.
you know, um, what is it going to be like for my daughter? As a parent, I kind of, yeah, I worry about that.
I have heard of that, and I've seen documentaries, and I've
Yeah,
seen
it's crazy.
they dismember the kids
Mm.
in Tanzania. But and then I worry about going to Africa because just because I'm not going to that country doesn't mean that there
True,
isn't somebody from that country, like
true,
in Ethiopia or in South Africa,
correct.
who has those
Yeah,
same beliefs. So it's
yeah,
like so
yeah,
worrisome to travel there with her. So yeah, I
yeah.
was gonna
I
ask you if
hadn't.
you feel scared.
If I've traveled with, I haven't traveled with her in any African country recently, but I am scared. Like I'm it's like if I'm to take her somewhere, I'm always there's always that in the back of my mind. But I want to tell you of an incident that happened probably like a year or so ago. I had a guy, we were in public, we were at a, I can't even remember what it was, but I had a guy walk up to us and say, "Did you know that your daughter's limbs, da 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 da?" I see her there. Hey,
she, she woke
um,
up.
hello, beautiful.
She woke up.
Did she just wake up? She's like, oh, like, what are you doing? I need your attention. Okay, we're almost done.
Yeah, we got in late last night, so she's home
Ah,
today.
okay. Yeah, so a while back I had an incident where I had this guy literally saying these things in front of my daughter, like, did you know that, in certain parts of Africa, your daughter is in danger and stuff. So I thought I should probably report this to the local police, for what it's
Uh-huh,
worth,
uh-huh,
because it was borderline harassment in my eyes anyway.
uh-huh.
And because this is my child and you're harassing me in front of my child. And so I go and I try and report it, and they say to me, this they blatantly say to me, there's nothing they can do because they don't have any. Because when they report a crime, they have codes they report it under, right?
Okay.
So rape they'll report under rape. Um, and they say to me they don't have a code for how they would report um, slander or
Right.
discrimination against a person with albinism. And I
Uh-huh.
said, but why does it have to be of a person of albinism? Don't you have a code for just reporting things like that in general? They're
Yeah.
like, we do, but when it comes to albinism, we want it to be specific because it's not, it's it's related to their condition. So they couldn't even write, I couldn't report it because they said they don't know how to write it up. And that was weird to me. I was like, a crime is a crime, it doesn't
Yeah.
depend on if you're white or if you're albino or if you're black. It doesn't depend on your race or your color or your condition, right? A crime is a crime. That I felt was so. I felt like, okay, so if something were to happen to my child here, what are you telling me? I can't report it,
Yeah.
right? That was awkward to me. And this happened like, yeah, about a year ago. Um, yeah, just quite sad. So I get worried, like the older she gets, if somebody is to bully her at school, can she actually go to the police and report that? Or if somebody were to, do something to, yeah,
Yeah,
anyway.
that's weird. And then that guy, that person, did you know that person or do you know where they're from or do
No,
you
it was a random person. It was a random guy. I don't even know. And they started asking me, what does he look like? What is his, if you know their name? I mean, I don't know. It's a random person. Then they walked up to me. So, but I was always wondering like how it is in the US. Do you get any of that at all? Do you get
when
any questions? Do you get people being weird about it, ignorant about it even?
yeah, when she was younger, we got more comments because when she was younger, her hair was like finer. So the people were just confused. Now her hair is coarser, so it's real
Okay.
clear that
Yeah,
she
that's
is
it.
my
Yes.
child. Even though it's
Yes.
a different color, it's clear that like, and her
Yeah.
features also are easier
Yeah.
to see. I think when she was
Yeah.
younger, they thought I was the babysitter because she had this wavy
Yes. I've had that too.
hair,
Yeah.
and then she looked like a doll in my arms. She's like people
Yeah.
sometimes she would move, and they're like, "Oh, I thought she was a doll."
Yeah.
Like a doll.
Yeah.
And the doll comment, I was like, okay, that's cute. You think she's a doll. Some people asked if she was my child, and I say yes. I try to cut them off, like, yes, she's
Yeah.
mine. And they're like,
Yeah.
biologically? Like they keep
Yeah.
asking
Yeah. Yeah.
questions. And I'm like, I already said yes, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but now that she's older, I get less of those because I think she looks more like me with the
Yes.
hair and her features. But we
Yeah.
get a lot of looks. Like when we walk through the airport, people are
Yeah.
they look.
And are there any government support? This is my last question because you're supposed to question me, not the other way around. But do you get any government support for her because she has albinism?
No, not
No.
not not directly, but she
Oh,
has
okay.
visual impairment due to her albinism. So
Yes. Yeah.
then we get services for that.
Oh, okay. No, we don't get that. Yeah, no, we don't get that. So last year I tried to get her glasses through the medical aid,
Yes,
and the doctor had to write a motivation that it's a condition that her eyes is because she, and they wouldn't accept it. They said they don't have a code for that. Again, it was like they don't have a code for visual impairment, like support for visual impaired kids that have albinism. And I was just like, that is weird because it's my medical aid. You should be able to cover if somebody needs, because my doctor termed it as chronic because it's chronic. It's she'll have that for probably
yes,
the rest of her life.
yes.
um, so that was also another awkward situation.
Yeah, she got glasses from the state. So that was another. She did get glasses because they're expensive because she needs the
They
transition
are.
lenses. Even though we
Yeah.
have insurance, it's
Yeah.
still like hundreds, multiple hundreds of dollars
It
because
is.
she
It
has
is.
she has two prescriptions. So she has like the
Yeah.
bifocal. So they
Yeah.
have the ones for the see far is like it's
Mm-hmm.
up top and the ones for her to
Mm-hmm.
see close is the bottom. So there's
Mm-hmm.
two prescriptions in her
Yeah.
lenses, plus the
Yeah.
polarizing because of the
Yeah.
photosensitivity. So it's
Correct.
like multiple things in her glasses. So then it just everything that you add to the lens, it becomes more expensive. So we
Becomes more
did have
expensive.
help.
Yeah.
We have a division of blind services that she
Okay.
qualifies for glasses from them. And then in addition to
Okay.
that, yeah, she qualifies for vision services as well. So they come,
Amazing.
and
Yeah.
they work with like handwriting, or different looking at different objects, just because sometimes in the classroom they can fall behind because they can't see as
They
well.
can't see.
So they
Yeah.
have a person come and just make sure that they're getting all the concepts that they're getting, at her age is like shapes, numbers, colors, letters,
Correct.
make sure so
Yeah.
they come
Yeah.
and reinforce those concepts to make sure that she's not falling behind.
Mm. Mm. Okay. I'm not aware that we have that here, but definitely something I should start looking into now that she's getting older.
Yeah. Division of blind services is what we
Mm. Mm. Okay.
have.
Cool. So, did you have any more questions
See.
related to living in South Africa? It's a really nice place
Do you
with all
see,
its flaws and all.
yeah, do you see more Americans moving to South Africa? Like, and because I
Um,
see it online, I want to know if you see it in person. You see a lot of people moving there.
I wouldn't say a lot, but I do follow a few people on social media that have relocated from the US to South Africa.
Uh huh.
Um, so I'm thinking it's a thing. And I also had a friend of mine who she runs a women empowerment organization here in South Africa, and
Uh
she
huh.
recently went to the US um, on a conference or something, and she said to me, this was like 2 months ago when I met with her. She said to me, the amount of people in the US wanting to relocate to South Africa was actually quite astonishing in a good way. She was quite surprised that there were a lot of people, especially the young people, wanting to move to South Africa, and a lot of them were asking her, how can you help us get to South Africa because we would like to go and live and work in South Africa. And last year as well at a conference, I met a young lady who I think she said she was from Philadelphia, and she too was saying she had literally paid a ticket to come to this conference because she said she's looking for a way to relocate to South Africa because she loves it here. She feels like she's at home when she's in Africa. Um, so I'm guessing people are looking to come here, but Cape Town, for example, in the Western Cape as a whole, has a lot of expats, and it attracts a lot of tourists and a lot of people that want to kind of work here, um, because it feels like a first world city,
Yes.
But yeah, and still, I mean, if you live in Cape Town, you kind of get all of the benefits of living in a first world city, but you're in Africa.
But you have,
So
yeah, the
yeah,
prices are
so
lower.
and then the prices are lower. So if you have a source of income in the US, and you live in Cape Town, also that's also a very good thing because when you get the currencies converted, you can get a lot of rands for dollars. Um, Yeah, so it's quite common. Like in the workplace where I work, you have a few people that are immigrants, not immigrants, sorry, expats, working here, and they actually quite love working here. We have somebody from the UK, we have an American actually. We do have somebody from the US, and then people from a lot of the other African countries as well. So it's a mix. In Cape Town, you get a mix. A lot of expats living here.
Good. Yeah, I think about it, but then there's the albinism and the danger with the other
Yeah,
people.
yeah, you're probably better off not. But it would be good as a place to live. I just don't know how safe it would be for your daughter. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, you travel quite a lot, so you still kind of get to feel a bit of that, although not permanently or not for longer periods. But I think that's probably the better setting for you than going to relocate somewhere
Yeah.
in Africa, at least.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us today. I learned a lot. And then hopefully you learned some about albinism in America or the services here.
Yes, that's amazing. Yeah, I wasn't aware.
There are
So
some
that was really good.
commonalities between our experiences. People just don't know about it. So that part it sounds the
That's true.
same.
Yeah,
It sounds the
that's
same
true.
everywhere.
Because I mean, I told you that Zayana was born in the US, so we often think about, should we relocate? Should we? Because technically for her, she'd be going back home because she was born in the US. And then we always wonder, are we going to get any better for her over there than we would here? Uh, and so I always just like to ask, what would the benefits actually be if she were to live there?
Yeah.
But at least I don't have to worry about somebody dismembering her for her parts and
Yeah, that
using it
part
in some witchcraft ritual.
yeah, no, that part is not a thing over here.
Yeah, no, that part is also just crazy. If you think about it, it's actually quite insane. Yeah. She really
Okay.
wants your attention now.
Yes.
So I'm gonna let you go. This
Yes,
was
well,
really
thank
nice. This
you.
was really nice. We should do more of it. Although I don't know what we would talk about next. But if I'm ever in Florida, I'll give you a shout. Um,
Okay.
and if you ever in Cape Town, please do
Yeah.
shout out. We'd be happy to take you around and show you some of the nice places, the local edition, not the tourist edition.
Okay, will
Yeah.
do.
Thank you so much for your time and for this. Looking forward to seeing it. Bye, baby
Bye.
girl. You're so cute.